This is a Nightline Friday night special.
He is segregated for pulling a knife in a prison fight.
33-5, get aside, we are the master race.
But what really crushed his mother was learning that he had joined the Ku Klux Klan.
They come out of prison basically with a heart made of stone.
He is locked in his cell 23 hours a day, neither sunlight nor direct human contact. He has been segregated because officials say he belongs to a prison gang.
In here, you're a lot more enclosed. If you're not careful, you can go crazy.
Tonight, crime and punishment, prison gangs, blood in, blood out.
From ABC News, this is Nightline. Reporting from Huntsville, Texas, Ted Koppel.
The general population of a maximum security prison in the state of Texas is a dangerous place to be. It is especially dangerous if you're alone. It doesn't much matter how mean or tough you are on the outside. In this place, you need someone to watch your back. The correctional officers are here to keep the convicts from getting out. There's not much they found they can do to keep a man from getting raped or cut, beaten or killed on the inside, which in turn led to the formation of prison gangs. They tended to form along racial or ethnic lines. Many of the black inmates already belonged to street gangs like the Crips or the Bloods. They're dangerous but not well organized, so prison authorities tend to leave them alone. Authentic prison gangs like the all-white Aryan Brotherhood or the all-Hispanic Mexican Mafia are in a different category. If prison intelligence confirms an inmate's membership in one of those gangs, the prisoner is automatically transferred to administrative segregation. If he's already a member when he's admitted to prison, he'll never be put in the general population in the first place. He will spend the rest of his sentence in solitary. An inmate could get out, that is, return to the general prison population, if he renounced his membership in the gang. But then he would probably be killed. He has to shed blood to be accepted in the first place, but membership is considered a lifetime affair. That's what's meant by the slogan, blood in, blood out. The state of Texas plans to spend hundreds of millions of dollars building new, specially designed high-security facilities, like this one adjoining the Estelle prison near Huntsville, built to house the most dangerous and violent offenders. More than half the inmates at this prison within a prison are here because they are believed to be members of murderous prison gangs. It wasn't always like this. Prison gangs used to be segregated from the general population, but they were allowed to exercise together. This incident in 1985, captured on videotape by outnumbered guards, shows members of the Aryan Brotherhood gang turning on one of their own, stabbing him to death. Now, these gangs are isolated, cut off from nearly all contact with each other, and gang violence is down.
In here, you're a lot more enclosed. If you're not careful, you can go crazy. It's maximum security, right? Supposedly the most highest security of all the prisons. It's really difficult to speak to your neighbors here.
But even in here, communication is not impossible. Recreation time provides the opportunity for one-on-one contact between cages. The gangs have perfected elaborate hand signals to communicate.
No, I told you I will give you my word, okay?
Gang intelligence officers like Sergeant Irma Fernandez are assigned to every prison to monitor gang members, talking to informants, reading inmates' mail.
Just because they're in administrative segregation doesn't mean that they're isolated. You know, they still send word through visitation, you know, anything that they need done through visitation, through the mail, coded letters. They can still, whatever they need, they can still get done.
Here's an example of a code. This is a postcard.
Sammy Buentello runs the war on gangs for the Texas prison system.
Basically, if you take off the photograph, you'll see that it's a number code. And in this particular case, they're discussing actually assaulting several people out in the community. And so this not only affects us, it affects the community at large. Just for example, this past weekend, we've had 2 homicides in San Antonio, Texas, 1 in Austin, Texas, and 1 in Dallas, Texas, that were related or suspected of being related to prison gang activity. And that's in just 1 weekend.
It's getting harder and harder to identify gang members as the prison authorities crack down on them. Tattoos with gang markings are increasingly camouflaged.
In this particular case, you see a camouflage Aryan Brotherhood. Now, if you look close underneath the eyes, you can see the A and the B.
We could identify them because they were marked. Okay, now they've gotten smarter because we have started locking, you know, a lot of them up now. So that makes it harder for us, and we do it through their correspondence. We search their cells.
Sell contraband, you know, selling things, you know, extortion.
This man is a member of the Hispanic gang Barrio Aztecas, doing time in administrative segregation.
All my time I've been back here.
The rest of your time?
And the rest of my time I'll be back here. And each time I keep coming back to prison, I'm going to be back here.
How does a little guy handle himself in a place like this? By himself?
Even small people need to learn to maintain their own respect amongst others, especially in prison. If I have to go as far as using some kind of weapon to defend myself, or if I have to go as far as putting myself on the line to maintain my respect, then that's what I'm going to do.
This is a place where they test you, though, isn't it?
Yes. I'm going to do whatever it takes to survive while I'm in this place.
The reason I joined was because while you're in here, you know, you're not going to be able to do your time by yourself. Physically, you could do your time. I could do my time physically. Mentally is what you need support in, not only with your family, but with other people. What we're about is it's brothers. We're brothers, which is we help each other out financially, mentally, you know, physically.
If someone wanted to opt out, if someone said, I've had enough, I don't want to be a part of the gang, I want to leave, you can't just resign your membership.
No, sir, you cannot. Blood in, blood out. That's what this is all about.
I really can't go into it, you know, the details. But, no, you can't just say my membership has expired and I'm just gonna walk away. It doesn't work like that.
And if you tried to do that?
Well,
there are consequences.
There's consequences for everything. Unfortunately, the consequences on my situation, well, they're pretty bad. I'll just put it to you like that.
You ever thought about quitting the gang?
No.
Why?
Because there's a lot of consequences. The consequences is death. I don't want to die.
Discipline is the hallmark of the prison gangs, but what terrorizes their enemies also keeps their own membership in line. At this cell block, where members of the Mexican Mafia are held in administrative segregation, this is the quietest, best-behaved unit in the prison. I'll talk to some of their members when we come back. K-Block, a still prison high-security unit. There is no angry yelling or banging on doors here. This is home to the Mexican IMI, the Mexican Mafia. With more than 1,500 members in Texas prisons alone, they are considered the largest prison gang in the country and one of the most violent, specializing in drug dealing and contract assassinations. I talked with members of the gang in their cells on K-Block.
This is the most well-behaved cell block on the unit. And the main reason is that we discipline ourselves. We we try to emphasize to all our members to have respect for the officers, because that'll minimize problems for us and for them. We just want to do our time.
Joe Saldivar is a member of the gang who has been in administrative segregation for 16 years. Now, you're in here, those of you who are members of the Mexican Emmy, are in here not because you have assaulted a guard or not necessarily because of any violence while you were in prison population, but simply because you are members of a prison gang.
Anybody who was known or suspected of being a gang member was segregated. But for the last 4 or 5 years, all our leaders have been engaged in is nothing more than establishing peaceful relations with everybody in prison.
But the fact of the matter is, you men are a family. You are not only loyal to one another because you want to be, there are times when you are loyal to one another because the consequences of disloyalty, I mean, I've read your Constitution, the consequences of disloyalty are death.
Theoretically,
I'd be a dead man.
They're supposed to be dead men, but there's cell blocks full of exes, not only from our family, but from other families. And it's practically impossible to carry out a murder the way you contemplate.
Yeah, so maybe one day I'll be out on the street again. I mean, people have long memories, right?
That's happening. I can't deny that.
You've been in here how many years?
About 17 years.
17 years in prison. How many years in ADSEG?
About 16.
Explain to me, I mean, you're a very eloquent and apparently a well-read man. Explain to me how a man survives that and keeps his sanity, as you clearly have.
Well, I just keep my mind occupied on whatever. I paint, I draw, I write, I read, and I exercise and I keep active. I'm 55 years old and I try to keep in shape.
Are you in for life?
I've got a life sentence, and I'm trying to make parole.
Nobody seems to make parole these days.
No, there's no more parole in Texas. And I don't know, I guess I'm stuck in here.
Yeah, I've run into several men like you here, Joe, who are clearly very intelligent men, who have the self-discipline to teach themselves something that on the outside you would have had to go to law school to learn. And I guess the sad question is, why the hell didn't you do it when you were on the outside and when you had the chance to do it?
I guess if we had that answer, we wouldn't be here. I don't understand it myself. I don't know it.
I mean, just think, if you'd gone to law school, you could be on the outside helping get other young men out of here, right?
Yes, sir.
One young man on cell block K who may see the outside of prison before growing old is Speedy Garza, up for a parole hearing in June and general release in the year 2001. Your family was here a few days ago to visit you.
Yes.
Does that make it easier or harder when you've seen the family?
Well, it's really hard. I can't show that I'm afraid or that I'm scared or that I miss them or that I'm tired of being in this place. I can't show very many emotions at that time. I have to try and be strong so that they can be strong. So I try my best to keep a smile on my face and make them think that, well, everything is okay.
While Speedy Garza meets with his family, nearby, a mother meets with her son. He has joined the Ku Klux Klan since coming to prison. Their story when we come back.
All you gotta do, go to the FBI and it'll show who's the ones killing people, raping the babies out there, selling the crack cocaine on the streets, robbery, carjacking. It sure ain't the white people.
Travis Poole is doing 20 years for 2 counts of burglary. He is 27 years old, an avowed racist, and a proud member of the KKK. He is kept in total isolation, confined to his windowless cell for 23 hours a day.
Good morning, may I help you?
Visitor Virginia Poole.
He's Virginia Poole's only son. She and her husband raised Travis in a Dallas suburb where he got hooked on drugs, was in juvenile detention at age 14, in prison at 18.
A long time ago, I made up my mind. I love my child unconditionally, and I apologize to no one for loving my child. I'm not ashamed of him. I'm ashamed of some of the things he has done, though. I will be by him as long as I'm alive and he needs me.
Visiting days for most prisoners means hugs and kisses. For a prisoner under segregation, it means no human contact, ever.
How's it going?
Hey, babe.
Yeah.
I cannot describe how it feels. A mother likes to touch her children even when they're grown. I've touched him one time in almost 5 years, and it hurts. Hurts a lot.
They talk about hatred, about his membership in the Klan. She and her husband raised their son to respect all races.
Some of the things that I tell him is not real nice about it. Some of the words I say to him about that's very harsh, very harsh.
She tells him to keep his hatreds to himself.
And I hate it, and I ask him not to tell that. I'm very ashamed of that. I'm very ashamed of that.
Where does that come from?
It does not come from me or his father. It comes from prison.
So you got in here because of drugs and burglary. Now,
yes, sir.
How'd you end up in ad seg?
Well, I had a couple of fights, inmate assault, and weapon possession. You know, when you first come in, you get attacked. To see if you're a man, they call it checking. You're gonna fight. You don't get jumped on by one inmate, you get jumped on by 4 or 5. Right. And after you fight one group of races, you fight the other ones.
But you're in here then because you were in fights a lot?
I've had a few fights. I had about 4 fights and stuff like that, and 4 weapons possession.
So what does the Klan do for you in a place like this?
Well, they write letters. They call the warden. They come up here when their members are having problems, stuff like that.
So you communicate with them the way you communicate with your family?
No, so it's on a different level. My parents and my family are not racist, quote racist, and they're against my beliefs. My mom don't even talk to me about it. She tells me I'm a fool. You know, she hates it. She don't believe in it.
So why do you do it?
Well, I believe in it now. I believe in it.
Well, I'm still a little confused as to what it is that made you. I mean, you say
they was carrying somebody there.
Well, if I understand you right, you say you don't hate black people, you don't hate Jews, you don't hate Mexicans, right?
That's right.
So is it a question of racial superiority? Is it a question of one race being better than another?
No. Well, God put everybody on earth for a purpose, and we all got our place and time. I feel we were the best ones. The white people are the best ones.
White Christians?
Yes, sir, white Christians.
There's a lot of black inmates on this cell block.
Yes, there is. Yeah. That's why I think they moved me over here.
Now, does that bother you being on a cell block with a lot of African Americans?
I'd rather be around white supremacists
if you had your choice.
Yes, sir.
Well, we talked to your mom after she came to the visit, and she does disapprove. I mean,
yes, she don't like it.
She doesn't think you're on the right track there.
No, she don't.
I mean, I get the feeling that you and your mom are pretty close, right?
Yeah. I love her with all my heart, but she's been here for me. I've done a lot. My family shouldn't even be there for me because I've done a lot to them and stuff like that. But they've been there for me.
I think society as a whole views our prison population as worthless, and they're really not. I believe in justice. I'm not opposed to the death penalty. And it causes a lot of mixed emotions inside a mother's heart.
You got this? You see this? It's all about that, America. It's all about that, America. Recognize it. Recognize it. That we ain't going nowhere. 32 degree father. You decide. We are the master race.
My child shouldn't be living in this. No mother's child should be living in this. But, however, we have to have justice in our society. And we're not against justice. But sometimes, instead of our system making better people out of them, it makes them worse. And that hurts. And everybody loses. Everybody loses.
The fact is that a lot of these men, classified as too dangerous to leave in the general prison population, will be coming back to our cities, straight from isolation, when their sentences are up. I'll be taking a camera into one of these cells, spending some time here, as we try to explain what the experience of administrative segregation is like. That'll be our focus on Monday, when we conclude our series on crime and punishment. That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel at Estelle Prison in Huntsville, Texas. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.